Our last talk of the day at Archeo is our Built for Shopify panel. When this panel topic came up as an idea, I was like, not nervous, but a little bit like, well, I don't want to turn it into like complaining about Built for Shopify review for an hour. Or, oh, I had Built for Shopify, then I didn't have Built for Shopify, and then I had it again. We found some really interesting perspectives to share here, and so that made me really confident that this was going to be a lot of fun. We'll do intros, so I won't introduce everybody here, but moderated by Mantle's own Jordan Graham. And here you go.
All right. Easily one of the least experienced with BFS at the conference. We're not a Shopify app. We don't have to do that. Sorry. Yeah, like as Blair said, like the goal isn't to be like shitting on BFS, but it's also not like meant to just be like celebrating it for no purpose. We wanted to find some people that could have some honest conversations. And I think we achieved just that. Met earlier in the week. Some interesting perspectives, very diverse experiences with it too. So excited to dig in. It's not going to be a technical talk. We're not talking about things that like you need to consider when doing it. It's really about the story of like the journey for these people, what came after what was maybe expected. But I think to kick off, as mentioned, I'm Jordan, CEO of Mantle. Thank you so much for showing up for us today. I hope you guys all got something incredible to take away from it, new connections, new ideas, and hope to see you again next year, bet on it. But yeah, let me pass it over. Want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Trudy McNabb. I'm one of the co-founders of Design Packs. And actually, Design Packs has two different apps. We have the theme sections, which is our biggest app. But then we have another app that we have called Product Blocks, which is just little blocks that we made optimized for the product page because a lot of our clients were just asking and our sections don't fit there. So so I started out with doing Built for Shopify for that one.
Hi. I am Shashank Agrawal. I started this company, StarApps Studio, back in 2017. We have a suite of 7 apps. They deal with different aspects of product variants. So when we started to the program today, the Build for Shopify was introduced. Before that, the Polaris, etc., was introduced. So it was it has been a really nice journey to see how the platform is thinking and evolving over time. Happy to share what we learned in the way.
All right, I'm Daniel Patricio. I'm the CEO and founder of Abra Promotions. We help merchants do complex discount and promotional stuff on the storefront. So we're built for Shopify. We were built for Shopify from day one. Part of the reason we did that is I spent 8 years at Shopify as a product manager. Worked on channels, storefront APIs. I built the marketing section in Shopify. And a lot of what I did at Shopify was working with partners. And I think, if anything, part of my frustration at Shopify was like, how do I know which partners to work with? And every PM I knew didn't know who they could trust and who they could work with in the ecosystem, who would be down to do things. And so I always wanted something like that. And when Built for Shopify came out, I was just like, okay, I'm building this, I'm solving gaps in the platform. How can I climb the ladder of being the most trustworthy partner in the ecosystem now that I'm outside of it? So Chris from Saguna gave me a couple nice shout outs through the day, and like partners like Chris were like awesome to work with at Shopify. I think Chris was telling a story of he met someone at Unite, which was pre-editions, and the truth that PM, I was working on something, this marketing section, the PM's name was Jacinth, and she was like, oh, you got to speak to Chris. He's awesome. He's trying to build everything around this use case. And so, in starting Abra, solving a gap in the problem, I've kind of sought to do BFS and whatever else Shopify's wanted to do so we can be that premier partner.
We'll get into that later.
Okay.
Deal.
Stop talking.
Sure. Now, so you were BFS like when you started, like you launched BFS. you had an app existing when BFS rolled out, and since then you've launched a new app, and that's been a pure BFS journey. And you had an existing library of apps prior to BFS being announced that you've like gone through the migration journey. Let's maybe color like what those different experiences were. Like, what was it like taking an existing stack through that? How did you prioritize what you were going to work through and when? Okay. And tell us a bit about like what motivated you to take it on, where it was like optional, like you weren't required.
Yeah. So I think from very early on, we were very much aligned with what Shopify is thinking and what should be the right way to build apps. And even before the BFS program, if you will see the whole lot of changes that came to Shopify, I think it's all a connected story, and that is what we should all focus more on, and not about specific guidelines of BFS. I think the overall ethos is what matters the most. So before BFS, the launch of app blocks, the launch of theme sections, the 2.0 migration of themes, it was all bold steps that platform had to take. And so from the day one, when we started building, again, these things and these guardrails were not there. And a lot of players were, for example, Shopify apps were infamous for putting a lot of code and scripts within the theme, which will remain there even after uninstalling. When we started building apps, we were very careful that the app has to work like an add-on, and the uninstall experience has to be very clean, right? It is not just the install that matters, because a lot of people are going to uninstall. Around 60-70% of people will eventually leave you rather than continuing with you. And that journey has to be really good. So we were always aligned with what Shopify is thinking. So BFS was not a challenge, but sort of a guideline from the platform and a much more clear path from the platform itself of what they care about and how we should be thinking and building. So it was not a very difficult journey to transition. We were already using Polaris, we were already using AppBridge, we were already using most of the technicalities, so backend was fine. However, the most challenging in that was making sure we were fitting into the LCP. But I think, and it really felt very challenging once we did the initial set of work. It felt like this is just unachievable, and how is this number can be attained. But with the rigorous tweaks and optimizations, I mean, we were definitely able to do much better than what we were thinking, right? So I think that was a great outcome from BFS. It really pushed us to make the product absolutely great, and then a bunch of other things also in BFS that we really liked and improved the overall product. Of course, there are complaints, and they will always be there when you have a fixed rule that may not fit for all apps.
I think Daniel helped create BFS in some respects by advocating for it, so he'll take all your complaints. Okay, so you, on the other hand, you had an app that was existing, non-BFS. Did you build your new app BFS first, or did you go back and move design packs into BFS?
No, well, I guess part of the motivation of even building it in the first place was like, because we're using the asset pipeline and we have that access, but we don't use app blocks. And it's only 4 years, but I feel like 4 years is forever in app world. So it's like, it was kind of like a lot of legacy code, and our LCP was so high that it wasn't gonna. There's
been at least 20 versions of Polaris.
Polaris, yeah. There's been, yeah. Like I've done we started with the purple Polaris, like, so then I was like, oh, I want to play around with the app blocks, but I was like, actually, I'm just going to build a new app so that I can like start fresh and just do the whole thing fresh. So it kind of was built more in line with BFS, and the LCP was better because we're building it on new, like the fresher stack with the newer things, and everything was better. So, and then it kind of became an experiment to me. Like I was like we've never done ads for it because I was like, I just want to see once we get BFS, like what the changes. So this app has kind of been a whole experiment and testing things, and it's easier to like do something on a small app with fewer installs and then like roll it out to like design packs. And so our biggest block really with design packs was the LCP, which I knew was going to take forever to change, so it was easier with the other one. And then the second block is because we don't have theme, like we don't have app blocks, so we're automatically not like for that. And I didn't want to just throw in, because I know some other section apps, they just have like a theme app extension that does nothing just to like get it, but I wanted to be more thoughtful about it. Since then, I have thrown away the whole back end of design packs and rebuilt it. So now the LCP is good. So I just have a few things, but it was kind of an experiment. I just wanted to see, like, if we don't do anything, what BFS would do for an app. So that was kind of my motivation.
With design packs, like you technically can't qualify for BFS at the moment,
Yes, because we don't have an app extension and we're using the asset pipeline.
but you were still motivated to like look at BFS.
Yeah,
and-
so we have
and
all the
use that.
stats down, so our LCP and all those stats are okay. We haven't applied, but I'm talking to people to see if we can get an exception.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel?
Yeah, you set yourself up for that. Okay, like tell me more about that then. Like, what was it really just like the performance element of it? We're talking about LCP a lot. Were you just like hyper motivated about like these performance standards, or is it like aspirational that you wanted when you could be BFS certified for your type of app to be able to like?
Well,
why undertake it all?
I wanted to get the performance down for the long term of getting BFS. Like I do think like the goal is to get BFS. It's just I knew it was going to be a longer journey because we're like using the asset pipeline, and so and then I do have some ideas for theme app extension. I just didn't want to throw one in for no reason.
Okay, cool. Okay, now we've got two BFS apps or several BFS apps here going on. Maybe Shashank, you go through the work, you get approval. What was the experience? Like, what did you see? But also, like, what did you expect? Like, Shopify early on, you're hearing a lot about like incentive to move toward BFS. Was that realized for you? What did you buy into that you hoped for?
Yeah. So, see, Shopify is very clearly saying that, of course, they want good quality apps. They want to lay a clear guideline, and that's why the whole BFS program. But at the same time, if you will see, Shopify is saying that apps are very important for merchants, and App Store is not the only place where they should be discoverable. So if I want to recommend apps, want to identify right merchant and pair them up with the right app, for that, just think about you are a partner and you want to recommend another partner's app. Would you recommend any app? You need to see certain quality benchmarks to ensure that, yeah, this app looks good and I can really recommend it to my clients, right? So when Shopify is saying that, okay, I'm going to drive your install not just through App Store, but also through other channels, a lot of admin panel, a lot of stories where they are mentioning apps, etc. How will they pick apps? And for that, a basic criteria, a build for Shopify criteria, which their team has inspected and they know that their system is continuously tracking and you are within those metrics, it really makes sense, right? And we have seen, for example, today App Store search, of course, is the largest app install channel for us. But apart from the search and search ads directly, I think which would contribute only around 45-50%, but 15 to 20% of installs are coming through admin recommendations or stories, right? So it's really important. So it was really important for all those reasons why you should be going behind BFS. And when Shopify is saying that, okay, you can get 20, 30, 40% of install upside, they are considering all of these channels, right? Overall, not just one-time ranking boost, which is going to be obsolete in some time because all of your competitor will have built for Shopify at certain point, right? So that ranking boost is going to have no such impact. But all the other places from where Shopify can now include you in their marketing and recommendation campaign, I think that is I feel is a right way to see it.
No, like part of like the motivation for rolling out BFS is like merchant experience is better, right? Like the sense of like leveraging more native Shopify tech and less confusion on top of the performance stuff. You're talking a lot about the acquisition side of it, but if that holds true on the merchant experience side, then like should be seeing effects of that. Are you guys observing like measurable impact on like merchants, or have you heard merchants talk? Like what's the merchant perspective on BFS from your experience?
Okay, so I don't have a directly merchant survey for this, but I do have data to back this up. And so from the App Store, we know that around 5 to 10% of merch installs that are coming, they have applied Build for Shopify filter. Okay, so that's one indicator that merchants care about it. They are looking for those specific apps. We have seen, we were mentioned in this story of top apps, best apps on Shopify, basically an article about Build for Shopify, and in that we were mentioned, we saw a huge jump in traffic through that. So I'm sure a lot of merchants are now reading those articles, and they are engaged with the Build for Shopify and what is happening over there. Apart from that, I mean, personally, when we were building Build for Shopify and the back and forth with the Shopify team about what is right, what is wrong, we realized that there were a couple of really good suggestions to implement within the dashboard and how the dashboard should be and how the things should be arranged. So there, and then from there, the install to activation ratio, that also we have seen slight improvement after those implementations. So I think this whole thing ties up to really building a better SaaS platform, better tool for merchants. This was not intentional though. Of course, the first reason for trying to get into Build for Shopify was to get a better ranking on Shopify App Store. We were already number one for some of our keywords, and we wanted to maintain that and not lose out. So that was the initial reason to get motivated and start working on that. However, it very quickly became clear that the best outcome out of this was a better product for the merchants.
Can I lead you with a question, actually?
Yeah.
So, like, I think that merchant life cycle in like the impact of BFS is like an important part of the promise, right? Like, if you're making the investments, there's got to be proof there. You have a really interesting perspective that's like a little bit different, but kind of cool too. That I think a lot of people in the room will be interested in hearing. You talked about like the difference between building for Shopify versus all caps building for Shopify. Talk a little bit about like your philosophy internally and like how you view BFS as like a minimum standard as opposed to
Well, yeah. So I think there's two angles I kind of think about this. Like one is like, why do we spend any time on this, and what is the beautiful star in the sky vision of where we can go? So we built a discount app. Right? You go look in discounts in Shopify. Why the hell did I spend 8 years at Shopify and I come and build an app in a category where there's 300 bloody apps? Like, what the hell? And so the first thing every merchant asks is like, why can you do anything different than Shopify? And a funny thing I used to hear when I was a PM at Shopify is like, why can't you make it look more Shopify? It's like, we got to differentiate ourselves. We've got to make this special and lovely. And I'm like, okay. But the irony when we started Abra is like, I want it to look exactly like the discounts area in Shopify. And that was actually a very powerful tool for us because merchants signed up and they actually felt comfortable. That's their point, right? They're like, oh, this is all the same things as discounts, but wait, what the hell's that? Like, oh, we got this weird button where you can just press plus, and then you can have a whole bunch of permutations. You can limit it by market and whatever. And so it actually created at the base level, from a usability perspective, it reduced the cost of learning the platform. It helped them start from a reference point, and it actually differentiated us further. So that's the basics I always look from. Like, why would you make this different than a system that they understand? And you can differentiate from it. Don't just change the colors to be green instead of purple or whatever the color is right now. I don't know. Like, to yellow, you should be like, oh, look, I'm so creative. Aren't you proud, Mom? Like, it's not finger painting. You know what I mean? So that's my basis on the product side. And then I think on the unicorn vision, like, I don't care that much about the benefits of BFS. They don't help us. Like, we don't get customers from the App Store. Right. I would almost, with our current business strategy, maybe our app should be unlisted because all of our merchants are massive and they all come through partners. So technically, if I was just building for Shopify, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of missing the point. But my North Star goal is like, how do I be the most trusted app in the whole damn ecosystem?
To who?
To Shopify, so they can do nice things for me. but like,
that's an important differentiation, right? Because some people are building most trusted for merchants, and you're building most trusted for Shopify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most trusted for Shopify is like, it's hard when you're outside and you're just like, oh, there's this like, my app just needs to work to get in the App Store. Pretty low bar, right? And BFS can feel like it has these arbitrary requirements, but they're important to the commons of all apps. Like, there's discount apps there that use draft orders. And you know what? If you use draft orders, I'm going to hunt you down. Because it's shut for every other app in the ecosystem if you use draft orders for managing discounts. So that's why I love BFS. Awesome. Don't do horrible things to everybody else. It's the nice part of an ecosystem. But like, to get to be someone, so like, we got featured in Shopify Editions this week when they rolled out the new discounts features. Because we were built for Shopify. We've always adopted things first whenever Shopify is looking for them. We're bringing requirements to the Shopify team and gaps, and I'm nagging them about features to add to the platform. And as soon as they implement them, we execute them. And, we're not in the Plus certified program there, but like the things I know about that isn't, again, another rubber star. That's like a sign of how you can operationally deal with sophisticated businesses at the high level. So like, there's no roadmap to get there, but that's kind of where you need to own your own vision, and you got to listen to your customers and be like, how do you become the most trusted one? Because you can't just wait for Shopify to come up with another gold star program. Again, when we were working with Chris, there was no build for Shopify. He was just a guy that we were talking about in the office because he showed up and he had good energy and he would like build on top of the APIs, and it got us excited as PMs. Because the thing is, like, there's nothing. Probably my saddest moments at Shopify was when I'd fought to the death to build an API. I spent years building it, and then I pitched 10, I won't say which app partners. I pitched 10 app partners, and they didn't want to build on my API. I'm like, well, thanks, guys. I'm not getting a promotion this year, But like, if you do the opposite, and if you be that eager person that can like build on it, like, you have to bring that energy. You don't just need to make your buttons, again, green, blue, purple, whatever they are today with this version of Polaris. But like, it's not just about that. It's about how do you be a good partner, right? Like an active partner, someone that cares about the craft of your software as much as the PMs at Shopify. Because if they don't think you care about it, they're not going to promote you. Because there's nothing worse than when you're trying to convince your boss at Shopify, like, hey, can we put a banner where we recommend this app? And then your boss clicks open the app and it's like, Jesus Christ, what's going on there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need to have, you're representing yourself. That PM has to have the same belief in you that they have in anything they build. So you actually got to exceed their expectations, that kind of thing.
So I want to ask you one question, then I want to come back to you on like where you think BFS is heading and what maybe a little bit of the future looks like. It's like as far ahead as you want. But first, like, I think you kind of come from a bit of a unique position, right? Like, you're internally advocating for this stuff, and you're talking about building trust with Shopify, you've got a lot of inherited relationships. For the like overwhelming average person in the audience right now, they don't come with that. So there's an extra step in getting in front of them within like the BFS framework, but then what you do after it. Like, what would you recommend as like ways to take what you've done and like how do you build that relationship to get in front of somebody to build that trust in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is when I started Abra 3 years ago, I pitched it to some PMs and they're like, you should not build this.
That's right. Yeah.
They're like, you should not build this. Listen, in 3 months, we'll launch this at Editions. This was 3 years ago. Like, you know, and so, you know, I mean, I had a lot of, using the Shopify vernacular, I had a trust battery based on my past cred to get in the door, but like, people didn't get it at first. Like, people didn't kind of understand it. You know, but I think the truth is always like you got to tell good stories, about merchants, right? The merchants that you help, and I think like a thing Shopify around like PMs, product managers, like people on the engineering teams, even the product marketing teams, the things they are always starved for is the merchant stories, right? And so like again, maybe you're going to be at Editions this week. There's lots of opportunities to go up to the PMs. Go and talk to them. The most valuable thing you can do this week is find the PM that works in your area and give them a problem that's interesting and valuable, right? So like something we ran into a lot of big merchants that were trying to do, because we built a thing with Tapcart where we built app exclusive discounts. And we were running into a lot of merchants that were like, oh, can I do a retail specific discount? And we were trying everything under the sun to hack that. Could not figure it out. And I just kept nagging a couple PMs that I knew could work on it. And I planted the seed for them. And I said, I wasn't nagging. I wasn't saying, hey, do me a favor. I was saying, I don't know if you know about this, but there's this very interesting market where I'm seeing a lot of very, very big merchants that are coming over from Salesforce. And what they can't do is run promotions per POS. So if you're trying to drive sales on POS, are you? Oh, yes, I am. Okay, well, here's a clear idea. And you know what? They shipped it last week. They messaged me the first day, and like, I'm going to try and roll that shit out. But like, you know, I think to summarize that, if you don't have street cred, if they don't know who you are, the way you can earn it, the thing that's most valuable is bring the merchant stories, right? Because nobody wants to help you. I don't want to deal, like my worst part of my job when I was in Shopify doing platform stuff is people complaining about shit that I didn't control, right? It's a shitty way of talking about your job, right? But the thing that empowered me the most is when someone came to me with an opportunity. They're like, there is this merchant. They're so cool. They're doing such interesting things. And all you need to do is add this field. You know, like you're giving someone a layup to like make someone's magic happen and that kind of thing. And again, the thing I was starved. I mean, I was a merchant for 10 years while I was at Shopify, so I always had a bit of an insight there. But even then, like I think the thing I was always starved for is like exposure to merchants, exposure to use case. So the most valuable thing I think you can do in the ecosystem is give people the opportunity to be heroes, right? To solve problems, to do that. Because, you know, when you're selling this as a PM on the roadmap, you're like, let me tell you a story. I had this conversation with Jordan and he said, da, 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 da. You know what I mean? Like, that actually helps you sell through things. Nagging doesn't. But that does, you know?
If you need somebody to just tell you a story so you could say Jordan said that, just let me know.
Exactly, yeah.
So it sounds like another piece that like you talked about but maybe didn't call it specifically is just like leveraging the things that Shopify makes available to you. Be a user of Shopify's technology, right? And like you're kind of doing that, Trudy, right? Because you have like we said, like right now you can't be BFS. You're doing all of that. You're hopeful that it's going to change. But you're beloved. You're not former Shopify, so you're working on those relationships and you're nurturing those. Is the BFSification of design packs like part of your like motivation to demonstrate that like willingness to party? Is that part of your evangelization of like what you're building towards?
I don't know if that was my thought process. I think, overall, I think BFS is a good idea for the fact that before I did apps, I was an agency and I used a lot of apps, and there's a lot of really bad UX in apps. And so I think having a standardization of like what are good practices in like design and merchant usability is just generally a good thing. And for us, it's like having that is good because we're such a small team that it's like, I think UX diminishes like your support tickets, right? So to just having a good user experience is good, and having a unified. I've never understood why wanting to build something that wasn't in Polaris that didn't look exactly like Shopify, like you, because it just makes it easier for merchants to understand. Like, there's no reason to like be different in that sense because you want merchants. So my goal is, I guess, for merchants to feel comfortable and also trust. So I guess it's more for trust for merchants. Like, I don't. Also, because our app was out before Built for Shopify, and we like would go to like Unite and talk to the design people and show them, and they would like give us ideas and stuff. So we already kind of had relationships a little bit. I mean, I am one of the only people who's never worked at Shopify, but it's more for me. It's like for the merchant experience that I think.
Cool. So you've already talked about one hopeful thing in
Yeah.
Shopify's BFS future. Some big changes with additions, dropping into 16 requirements. Did they just categorize them into 16 groups? Is that that'd be funny? Nice, gotcha. What do you think? Like you talk about like building towards like Shopify's future and predicting the invisible roadmap. Like, do you have any like senses of what BFS looks like in the future? What matters to Shopify down the road that maybe doesn't matter today?
I really have no idea because I just went through the BFS for product blocks, which we got in the end, but it was a harrowing
Before or
experience.
after the 16?
Before, right before.
Sucker.
I know. So it was a harrowing experience in which product blocks is a very simple app. There's only 2 pages. It really just has blocks for the product page and like very little user interaction in the app. Like, I feel like 7 or 8 back and forth. Every single time it was like a different thing. It was very harrowing. I was like, by the end, I was like, I don't know what you want. I really don't.
Do you guys have any guesses? What do you think? Where's it going?
I think this is going to
Microphone.
be. Sorry. Yeah. I think a lot more metrics are going to come, probably around the performance of the app qualitatively, in terms of what is the install to uninstall rate, first day uninstall rate, install to activation. I think Shopify is going to focus on that, because if your app has a really poor performance, ultimately the whole idea of creating something very similar to Shopify, having an onboarding flow, having stats, etc., is to push you towards a direction where merchants can really see value, and the value is very clearly defined. Now, to measure that, one is, of course, so if I can do one-time review of your app, BFS design and all, and it can probably do that at the end of year. They are saying every year they want to do it once. But app developers can change it every day, right? And we are pushing changes every day. It's really hard for them to monitor that. So I think the baseline data to ensure that, okay, those things are really followed is to measure what is your churn rate, what is your activation percentage, etc. I think something similar will come, where they will add some more stats within the dashboard, and then they will start tracking that.
Yeah, I think on our side, I think being very selfish, I think there's 2 pushes. Like, one is below, like, again, I think sometimes to get in the app store, your app just needs to be not broken. I think we do a lot of stuff on the store. I think Jay was doing an interesting talk, who's like the first app to do stuff on the storefront on Shopify. And like sometimes we work on the storefront with merchants, and sometimes we go into their store and it's like an arm wrestling match in the cart. We're like 5 apps are trying to do crazier shit than each other and refreshing. I'm just like, can we not? You know what I mean? Like, so I think like, I wish Shopify wielded the hammer of BFS more aggressively. Like, don't like, let's not give those people installs if you're not gonna like take care of the commons we have together, which is this merchant store, and use it with respect, because it just makes shit bad for the merchant, makes shit bad for partners, and makes it more complicated. So if anything, we're sort of more aggressive there. And I think looking up, I think there's quite a big chasm between built for Shopify and I think in the agency world, Shopify's added a lot more this ladder of how you get up. And I know a lot of the guys on the plus side. I worked with them a lot, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're still figuring it out, right?" There's not a clear ladder there. So but we've seen some big merchants that we deal with. They're like, "Do you have SOC 2 compliance?" And you're googling what is SOC 2 compliance, and there's all these ladders to get into this more enterprise platform side. And I think we're a startup, but we're very good at building software, and we'd like to be a very good company. How can we do that without just calling ourselves Klaviyo and going public? How can you help everyone else get to that level? We want to build at a very high level, and it's it almost feels like BFS is a low bar. You know what I mean? It's just okay, we're not destroying a store. Cool. What's above that? Is there anything above that? Come on, let's push it. Let's go. What are the kind of better things we can do? What is the vision for how we serve those bigger merchants? And I think that's some of the stuff I'm imagining Shopify is going to tackle. 10,000 apps. There's that little slice of BFS, but cool. Where do we push further? Where's the vision? Where should we be pushing? Where should we be raising our standards? And it's kind of a little bit in the dark. You know what I mean?
I cackled when Bjorn called it bureaucracy for Shopify for a little bit. But linking to your comment about what Jay said around we weren't allowed to, and we're told we weren't allowed to. BFS in some respects is more proactive guidelines of what you can and cannot do. Do you think there's a risk that it's going to prevent that level of innovation that can happen? How does Shopify sort of strike the balance there, where people are still literally pushing the limits on category creation and net new things, while also enforcing the standard that is so tightly coupled to your success on Shopify?
Yeah, it's such a hard balance. I can I don't want to be the I don't know if I'm being too soft, but I can sympathize with the stuff on BFS where they're had a few requirements, had a lot of requirements, have less requirements. Because the hard thing is it's a big process, right? It's a process with thousands of apps coming through. You've got hundreds of people reviewing these apps. How do you tell them to be specific enough about things and not specific things? I think where I would like things to be is where they are. I actually really like the requirements in the discounts category that we are. They good. They philosophical, and they make the system better. I think I think the long list of stuff was kind of a little bit unnecessary, and I was kind of shocked what the app review process was, because I'd reviewed apps and I'd been through that on the Shopify side, and sometimes felt a little random. You know what I mean? Going through an app review, and I can sympathize, because you've got a person in front of a computer with 100 checkpoints. They don't know your app. They don't know your problem. They've never used it before. Maybe there's never been an app like yours that's come in the App Store, and they've got to check some combination. But it's hard. It's a hard problem. So my hope is dig more into the things that matter. You know what I mean? Have a strong opinion on what you want out of the ecosystem, what you don't want. And be more aggressive and turn more people away and drive it where you're going. But that requires having that strategy, right?
Cool. Any last thoughts from you guys?
No, I think what it feels like to me is BFS is a basic requirement, and probably at certain point this is going to be the basic standard, right? This is like theme 2.0. Now all themes are theme 2.0. There's no filter in the theme store for theme 2.0. There's just no place for themes that are not 2.0 ready, right? I think that's going to be the future of apps, where BFS is the basic requirement to be listed, to be visible. Otherwise, you will be somewhere archived. However, at the same time, I think raising the bar and really giving more quality indicators about app, that is also necessary. And that's where a program like Shopify Plus certification or something similar, more simplified. I know Shopify wanted to simplify that program, wanted to bring it to much more app developers. So I think more programs like that will come, which will be on top of BFS, like let's say BFS Plus or something, uh, something else. But I think BFS in general, I think is going to be probably reduced down to make it a more general and a basic requirement for all apps.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it's a good idea, but it was like going through the process, it seemed very arbitrary. Like every day they were like a different requirement that wasn't required the first time that I went through. And then sometimes, like in the fourth review, they would say the opposite of in the first one. They're like, you have to do this, and then like, you can't do this. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I was just hoping. After a while, I had like didn't have any hope, but then eventually it did go through. So, but I ultimately think it is a good idea to have standards. So hopefully, I guess they'll understand, because it is hard, because every app is different and all the UX is going to be different and different people are reviewing it. So I think eventually maybe the requirements will become more clear. I haven't even looked at the new requirements. I just wanted to not think about it for a while, actually.
Yeah. For example, the requirement for naming, I think that's very arbitrary, and the acceptance criteria is also very random. So, for example, they will say, okay, you can't have a generic name. You are building a bundle. You can't have an app called Bundle, Bundleify, or something similar. Okay, that's very generic in their opinion. However, you can have SA bundles. Now that's not generic because you have added SA. Okay, maybe that stands for StarApps or something else. Or I have seen similar A bundle, B bundle, and I was literally very recently we launched a new app, and when we were going through its review process, they rejected around 8 or 10 names that we proposed, which in my opinion were not random, but they felt like, okay, this is very generic. This is directly talking about, okay, what the app does. For example, group up, it's something that got rejected. But ultimately, I asked him question that, okay, literally give him 10 examples of, okay, what is acceptable, what is not. Let's say if we do this or that. And then I finally figured out, okay, if we just add SA, this is going to be, and that's what the name is currently. We're still looking for a new name that fits in Shopify's criteria. So there are certain things that are random. At least that's what it feels to me.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things when I was a developer advocate was just watching the extent that people go to hack search in the App Store. It was an absolute pleasure to see. It was also an absolute pleasure to be up here with you guys today, and a pleasure to host everybody here. I've been like having Blair breathe down my neck for at least 5 minutes now. Are we pretty over? Yeah. All right. Guys, thank you for coming. Thank you to you guys for being part of this. And enjoy the rest of your week. Get some rest, but like you should all be like heading back to your respective homes at the end of the week very tired. Otherwise, you never spent the week properly. So make the most of it. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Jordan!
Woo!